Now, if we examine the Star Wars sequel trilogy, one of the biggest things that are really fascinating a lot of Star Wars fans right now for Episode 9 by JJ is, of course, wondering exactly how JJ is going to utilize the character of Luke in this movie that will be portrayed by Mark Hamill once more. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, I will say that is, of course, one of the biggest things in this movie that is really keeping me very much mystified is of course, it comes to the character of Luke and exactly what JJ is going to do with that character and his appearance, his final appearance in the Skywalker saga. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film when it comes to some of the set leaks, the set designs, the concept art and storyboard descriptions, etc. One of which has all to do with a major hint and/or indicator of Luke being resurrected, at least temporarily, in Episode 9. Specifically, a description of Luke holding what appears to be his traditional green lightsaber hilt and standing in front of an injured Rey. Luke here is described to have a slight blue hue and walking toward Kylo Ren. The next describes Luke appearing to be more of a solid figure, with no transparency and no blue hue. The sequence is described as Luke's resolution. The next goes over both Luke and Kylo walking around in what appears to be a throne room of sorts. It's described they are walking in a similar fashion to when Obi-Wan and Anakin were walking around each other before their lightsaber duel on Mustafar. Luke is described to appear far younger with no gray hair and described to have, of course, no beard. So what's really interesting to me about all of this is, of course, how it starts off with Luke protecting an injured Rey from what it seems, where he's standing in front of her holding the traditional green lightsaber hilt, where at first he appears to be, like a traditional Force ghost, transparent and, of course, holding that blue hue. However, as he walks closer to Kylo Ren, that blue hue begins to fade and he becomes more solid and lifelike as if he is made of flesh and blood. Now, we've heard about hints like this before in the past about Luke having this resurrection of sorts in Episode 9, at least temporarily. Now, not only does this fall directly in line with one of the big plans by J.J. Abrams in order to do something extreme with the Force for the character of Luke Skywalker at the very end of this movie, but it also lines directly up with the action sequence that we heard about just yesterday between both Adam Driver and Mark Hamill. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there is an action sequence that was actually filmed for Episode 9 between both Hamill and Driver, in which Hamill was actually hooked up to wire work, where he was actually holding a green lightsaber hilt, from what it seems, working with Adam Driver, where Adam Driver was actually being pulled by some wires into rubble. So these two characters are going to have a big scene together, both Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker. And I find it very intriguing why this sequence is actually described as Luke's resolution. It's like Luke is making a certain choice in this movie at the very end of the film, and that choice could very well be him reappearing from the netherworld of the Force and actually coming back to life, at least temporarily. Now, maybe JJ is going to do something extreme here, where perhaps maybe he's able to come back to life, maybe only once and one time only. Now, we do know that Luke Skywalker is a very powerful figure in the Skywalker saga. A lot of people look up to him, especially a lot of the Star Wars fans around the world, as well as the characters in-universe. So when we look at Episode 9, this is a very important piece to the Skywalker saga, and we do know that JJ wants to do something very special for the character. So as for this whole entire sequence involving Luke Skywalker first appearing to be in the form of a traditional Force ghost, and then eventually transitioning to a more solid figure, as if he is alive and well, and the actual sequence being dubbed Luke's Resolution. Again, like I say, this sounds more and more like J.J. Abrams is doing something out of Legends and/or EU material. And the fact that we actually heard about this a month ago, that J.J. Abrams plans to do some kind of big, revelation at the very end of Episode 9 for the character of Luke, that'll change how fans view how the Force works and exactly what the Force really is. I think what JJ is doing right now is doing something incredible for the character of Skywalker. Now, I will say that when we look at The Last Jedi, the fight between both Luke and Kylo, at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but it was rather disappointing, I will admit, because we never got that proper lightsaber duel between the two. None of their lightsabers ever locked together, in present time, and of course, both of them physically being there in front of everybody watching the fight. We never got to get a proper lightsaber duel in a Star Wars movie, or should I say in Star Wars The Last Jedi. So now moving on to Episode 9, it seems as though that JJ wants to give Luke somewhat of an opportunity in this film in order to be the ultimate Jedi Master that all fans have wanted to see for nearly 30 years now. Now sure, we got the Luke that we love in Return of the Jedi, but a lot of people have always wondered what Luke could really do in his older years, right? That Episode 9 really is going to be the Revenge of the Sith of our time. What I mean by that is, this movie is really going to stand out from the previous two films. It's going to be a movie that's going to be pretty much, I would have to say the fan favorite of the sequel trilogy, where everybody's going to reference that movie over the other two films. That's just my hot take on that. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.